what sort of multiples do you see? And I'll look specifically at the fully managed book, because that's where the bulk of the value is within the business. But could you just talk us through the sort of ranges you typically see?
Yeah, I would never personally use that way to value a property, value anything. I think it's a very old, antiquated, out of date, non-business like way of valuing. I mean, I can't be any clearer. I just think it's a really, really shitty way of valuing a business. So basically, it's got nothing to do with. So I've seen 1 times turnover, 2 times turnover, brilliant. So I've got £1 million business, 2 times turnover, it's worth £2 million. It's actually losing money every week. Or I can have a £200,000 business that's making £100,000 a year, but it's technically only worth £400,000. I know which one I'd have. So it's actually got
multiples is your typical approach.
It's got nothing to do with multiples, but it's got everything to do with profitability and how quickly you can get your cash back that you've invested in that business.
Okay.
So it's got nothing to do with a set way of valuing it. It's got to do with how your business is set up, how quickly you're going to get your cash back, but also what value that can add to your business.
And so what is a typical payback period, so for whatever the capital cost is?
So we want to get out, and this is very personal, we want to get our personal cash out within 3 years, because that fits our timeline of where we want to build our business up to exit. So we want to be acquiring businesses using our cash every 2 to 3 years. So if we buy a business now, we want to be getting it back out in 3 years, right? So we will not be investing all our cash in this one. We'll be investing a portion of our cash now, knowing that in 3 years we'll be getting it back out, but we'll be investing another bit of cash out next year or the year after to know that we'll be getting out in another 3 years. So we'll be recycling our cash. We also want to be getting any borrowed funds out anywhere between 5 and 7 years.
Okay, so shall we move on to funding then, which I think is where we're going into. So debt finance, so borrowing, how would someone who's never previously done an acquisition go about getting leverage into any acquisition?
Yeah, so again, it's very, very specific on you, your ability to lend, your credit history, your success in business as general, your contacts. Let's be honest, you need a lot of luck in business. So you could be having a conversation with somebody at a networking event you didn't realize is incredibly wealthy, high net worth individual, and then he's really interested in you and he likes you and he wants to invest in you as well as the business. So, you know, your bank's the obvious one, but you know, the first time I went to buy a business, I went to my mortgage guy and he said, well, what the hell are you talking to me for? And well, I don't know, I've never bought a business before. So he said, you need to go to a big accountancy firm. They've got a corporate finance division or finance department, and they will put you in touch with the relevant people and they'll raise finance. So, you know, we went to our accountant. They raised finance for the first couple, and that went really quite well. I bought a couple of portfolios using cash that we had invested in the business, and, you know, retained cash. And, you know, the smaller ones, you use your cash because you know you're going to get it out. But ultimately, if you want to buy bigger businesses, you want to be leveraging, you know, other people's money, OPM. So again, it's just about building up those relationships. Your first one is always the hardest one because it's the same as anything. Nobody wants to take a chance on you. So the more you can prove yourself and you've got a track record, it just becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. But accountants tend to have, or will have, a lot of access to a lot of various funds, you know, debt equity as well. So you might have somebody who says, look, yeah, I'll invest it, but I want 20% of your business. You've got to think, well, is that a viable option? Can I do that? Is that something I want to do? Is it 20% of the overall group of companies, or is it 20% of this target acquisition? Can you deal with that? Can you cope with having a business partner, or do you talk to from the very beginning about what your role is and what your investors' role in? So there's a lot of various, you know, there's a lot of choices out there that you can go down, a lot of routes you can go down. For sure, you need to speak to your accountant and you need to get all the options on the table first, and then you need to go with your most preferable route and then go back. And then at some point, it might actually not be worth going for the acquisition. You might say, do you know what, I'm giving too much away. So for instance, we're going for a different part of our business, rent to own, we're going private equity. So we're taking mezzanine and debt finance, and we will be giving away a little bit of debt. But that's palatable for us because we can see the bigger picture. In the agency, that wouldn't have been palatable. It doesn't fit our agency model. So me and my business partner want to have 100% control, but we're fine about giving a little bit of equity control with our PE firm.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned PE. So I've seen over, I haven't seen very much over the past few months, but over the past couple of years, I've seen more venture capitalists, private equity funds, and straight up financial institutions getting involved in agency roll-ups. It feels like a return to days gone past. Let's assume seller wanted to sell, got their business ready, buyer wanted to buy, they did a deal, they agreed the valuation and the funding was in place. How do you get 1 + 1 to equal more than 2?
Yeah, great. So you're going to have some efficiencies. Now, you've got to go in this with an open mind. Hopefully, your due diligence will have highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of the acquisition company, and you will know what your strengths and weaknesses are of your business. So you will either learn from the acquisition company, or you will implement your strengths into the acquisition company. Either way, you should get some cost savings and you should get some efficiencies and effectiveness straight away. So we always work on, you've got 90 days to implement any changes. So if your due diligence, and this is always on the caveat, the due diligence is pretty on point, it's pretty decent, that you've gone in, you'll know pretty much straight away the logistics and the dynamics of the acquisition company. You'll go in, you'll implement your learnings from your business and your strengths from your current business into your staff, into the new company's staff. You'll implement training and development. You'll implement the processes, the procedures. A lot of companies don't prospect, believe it or not, so you'll get some quick wins from prospecting. You'll get some quick wins from efficiencies and savings as well. Maybe, one company doesn't use Fixflo, so you'll implement Fixflo in straight away. Boom, you've seen a massive increase in customer satisfaction and efficiencies. Like that plug there, Raj?
I loved it. That's the highlights of my day, week, or possibly even month. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, there's going to be some efficiencies and effectiveness straight away in your role. And it's again what you said, objective strategies. We're now onto the tactics. So now we've already had the strategies. You should have known 60 days ago what you're going to implement on day one. Now, there's a fine balance because not a lot of people like change. So Peter Cotter's sort of change, he's a very famous management guru from years gone by. So he talks about change management, and change management is really, really important now. You go too hard, people don't like it and everybody runs away. You go too little, not enough changes for you to see the positive changes that is needed in the business. So it's a fine balance of implementing stuff on a weekly, monthly basis, but also measuring that change to see it's got the desired results and the desired effect. And then you're just pushing it every week, every month, every week, every month until you've got the change that you want. And just to let you know, staff will leave, right? But that's completely fine because just as we're biologically a new person every 7 years because our cells regenerate and we change and change and change, we're not the same person we are 7 years ago. Most of us aren't with the same girl that we first went with or the same boy that we first relationship. That's fine. People will leave you. Don't get upset. Just accept it and make sure that you recruit better talent to make sure you've got a better business. So the first thing is accept that change will happen, accept not everybody's going to like it, but you've got to be consistent. The hard work isn't buying the business. The hard work is making sure you improve the business and you merge it fairly and everybody accepts that change.